right, we should be live. Hello and welcome to the very first stream of the Voice of Old Town channel. Today's guest is the Grease Goblins, and we're here to discuss the Winds of Winter, why it's delayed, just, Winds of Winter in general, and House of the Dragon Season 2 rumors. And what Eric didn't know, the very new, recent rumors about the Aegon's Conquest show. Welcome to the channel, Eric. How's it going? Yeah, we shall see how it goes. Very first time for me. You're the expert. Obviously, you've done this a couple of times now. And yeah, speaking about Winds of Winter, because I'd love to start with the Winds of Winter. George just put up a recent blog post of his, and it didn't sound good at all. It was very depressing. He's in a state. No sound? Someone said Eric is muted. That is very unfortunate. I'll figure it out, chat. I'll figure it out. How about now? Eric, say something. You should be good now. Yeah. If you could just comment something real quick. Can you hear the man? We're not good. Okay. All right. This is still not working, guys. I'm sorry. First stream. This just had to happen. It's still working. Okay. Be right back, guys. Be right back. Okay, we're back. Should work now.
All right. Do we work now?
We should be good. We should be good now. Um, so basically, what I wanted to talk about was the Winter's delay and the very recent sad update that we got from George. A lot of his friends are dying at the moment, which how could that not impact you? Um, he's been struggling for a while for various reasons, but now it's obviously it's getting it to that stage where he's not getting any younger, he's older, and just naturally friends are dying. What do you think about the recent update?
A lot to like look at it if you're a fan of the books and be like, yeah, this gives me any type of hope. It's just it's obvious to tell that if he wrote this year, he didn't write much. I again kind of parroting what Preston Jacobs has kind of talked about a lot in this community for the last like year, I'd say. Just I don't think much got done. I think that's fairly clear to say, and I think regardless of what he actually put in his blog post, it's not great, personally, but I don't know. He is getting older, like you said. It's kind of the things we always talk about when we talk about Winds of Winter coming out or even the series being finished. But hopefully, he gets some, I don't know, motivation to start getting more of it done than this year.
It sounded very existential. He talked
Yeah.
about how he didn't even know if he has an impact, if anyone, if he has influence on people and stuff like that. It's horrible. It's a horrible state to be in. And I hope he comes out of it.
Yeah. I think he's definitely affected a lot by like world politics, things that are happening right now, without getting into them. But
mm,
yeah, I mean, I think I think part of it is he's looking at his influence, in my opinion, in almost the wrong way.
mm,
Because he's thinking, my influence maybe could help these things, and maybe it could, but I think a lot more of his influence is going to be on just normal everyday people and giving them places to escape. I've talked about this a lot because it's very
yeah,
close to me. Is just giving people characters they can relate to, giving people stories that can relate to or see themselves in, and that's all very important, right? Like his impact, and he maybe doesn't see that right now, is I think is very important, very influential, and I think both of us can agree on that. But yeah, I
totally,
think I hope
totally.
he sees that more.
Jesus V said, I didn't see the update. What was it? So George basically put up a blog post about a friend of his, and he died, and it was just very depressing, and he talked about his influence and how last year was just a very bad one for him personally. A Fury of Ice and Fire said, the challenge that no one talks about is that Winds is much, much darker than anyone realizes, so it's harder for him to write. Like writing the Red Wedding over and over, which he put off for years. That's very true. He actually put off writing the the Red Wedding scene until like the end of the book because he couldn't deal with it. And yeah, a lot of people have to die. It is gonna be much
Yeah.
darker than A Dance with Dragons. That's very true.
I mean, think about it from this point of view. It's like George has spent years and years and years making these characters, and now you're basically asking that a lot of these characters will either bad things are going to happen to them, they're going to die. Like that's very difficult to do.
Mm.
Um, and I think part of it is that, but one comment I saw that I thought was very interesting because it's something that we've talked about is Philip brings up which POVs do you think he's struggling with, and then he thought Bran and Dany, and
Yeah.
interesting enough, like me and you have talked about that already. I know you've made a video on it, and then I've also made a video about Dany and why I think she's a struggle. So again, Philip, I agree with you.
I'm a big believer that Bran is the main reason, in terms of the writing itself, why it's delayed so much. Because think about all the magical, the magical stuff that you have to explain through the eyes of a kid. He writes through POV, which obviously we are seeing it through Bran, a kid who doesn't.
Yep.
It's just hard, all the dark implications as well. Jojen Paste, I'm a huge believer in that. how do you reveal that through the eyes of a kid? And it can't
Very
be too
dark.
revealing either, because he's not too big on magic in the traditional sense. So yeah, it's a difficult task, and Danny as well.
Emmy, by the way, more or less the update was, it wasn't exactly an update on Winds of Winter. It was just him being very sad, emotional, just seemed like very distraught about world events, things going on. And so it just wasn't, there wasn't anything about Winds of Winter. It wasn't anything positive, more or less, is kind of what we're talking on.
um, my brother infiltrated chat. No
Oh
one
no.
talking about the. No, I'm not reading that out.
I mean,
Love
you may
guys.
not
Love you
read it,
guys.
but I mean, are you wrong? I'm just saying.
um, yeah, another reason, and I wanted to talk about the delay of Winds of Winter in general. Another reason is just his writing style, the gardening style.
Yep.
And obviously that huge time jump that he wanted to do, the 5-year time jump between Storm of Swords and what was supposed to be a Dance with the Dragons at the time. I kind of went into this in my last video, but it's, if you don't do outlines, you can't foresee something like this not working. If you do outlines, then you see, okay, it enables you to actually write in a way that allows you to implement it,
Yep.
But who am I to judge? The man is just amazing. Like, it's
Agreed.
can't tell him how to write. Because it got us this far. His gardening approach got us this far.
Yep, it's got to take us home.
Yeah, it's not going to change.
We'll see.
It's not going to change.
But yeah, it's interesting you do bring up the gap, because I do think it is very important, because it's like, you think about what that gap would have done for certain characters and where we'd be at the story differently than where we are in the normal story. Because in a lot of ways, because he didn't do that gap, we now are going to have chapters that you take are growing chapters. It's what they are, right?
Yeah.
Like Arya in Feast for Crows and even Dance is a lot of growing. Sansa's chapters, a lot of growing into who the character they're going to be.
Love Sansa.
Yes. So yeah, I think that's a good point as to why he'd be struggling.
A Theory of Ice and Fire says, years ago he talked about writing many Dany chapters in the Fraki Sea. Yeah, that's another thing. When we talk about Winds of Winter, how far will Winds of Winter even get us to the end game? Which she said it's gonna be 7 books. Is that realistic?
Yeah, like that's my problem. Like I think Bran is harder to write from a character aspect, but I think Dany just has so much to do. Like there's so much to do with the character because of the Dothraki Sea, like you mentioned. And then she's got to do something, Marine, like that has to get concluded somehow. She's not just gonna like straight up leave. So something's gonna happen there. And then you got to say, okay, are we just gonna skip her journey and then just have her on Dragonstone? That doesn't really seem like the way George likes to write. So you got to think we're probably going to stop in some places. I would love personally to go back to Pentos, but who knows if that'll happen. There's just a lot with the character.
He has to do it in a way where it doesn't feel rushed. And with so many POV characters, how many are they? Like 22, I think. You got to kill
There's a lot
of these people off, and might be a little goofy if you jump from POV to POV and people just end up dying all the time. So I don't know if 7 books is enough to finish this story. Might have to reevaluate that, and that is something that his publishers are pushing him to do, anyways. Right? They kept pushing him to split Winds of Winter up, which I don't think is necessarily the right move, because how it ended up with A Dance with Dragons. We all thought this might be something that benefits the series overall. That Winds of Winter will come faster because we had about 150 pages for Winds, but it didn't get us any further.
I mean, the other problem is, like, let's say he splits up Winds of Winter. Where do you, like, now you've got to figure out where is that end point? Like, where is the middle point between Winds of Winter and then the book that would be the second half of Winds of Winter to the next one? it's easier said than done, because certain characters might be, their plot is like, your trajectory is going up, but then you don't get the payoff to that. So it's like, okay, it just kind of feels like, why did we do that? So it's easier said than done, in my opinion. But also, I found a comment very interesting, because I'd like to hear your opinion on this. But Matthew Stewart asks,
real quick. Gabagool said, give us the season 2 rumors, please. We're gonna do that later. We're gonna talk more about House of the Dragon later, but definitely, I have a lot of rumors. I actually have something that's coming straight from the set that someone revealed to me about the Battle of the Gullet.
spicy
that
content.
might be interesting for a conversation. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
All right. So I would like to hear your opinion. What do you think is going to be basically the red wedding moment of Wins?
It has to be the wall falling, right? Or the first actual battle against the others. I think we make for a phenomenal epilogue if Stannis dies fighting the others, and it's just this incredibly vile, gruesome thing.
When I read this, I went way more literal, and I was like, yeah, the revenge red wedding.
I think that's gonna happen earlier. Earlier.
Yeah, it definitely will. So, I definitely think the big moment's got to be something with the others. It's got to be something with the wall. It has to be, I feel like.
Yeah.
But
no, it's called the Winds of Winter. Like,
yep.
The even windier Winds of Winter is gonna be book 7, or it's like at some point. And this is the tricky thing, doing it without rushing it. If Dany is still in Essos and so many plot points are not even close to coming to the end, it is a tricky task. But I believe in him. I think Winds of Winter, I think we will see Winds of Winter. The question is about whether or not we are gonna have a completion to the series in general.
Yeah.
Let's see.
That's what I always talk about.
Let's see chat. What did the chat say? Brian Solidus Fury, House of the Dragon question. Is season 1 a good start with no knowledge of either the books or the Game of Thrones series at all? I think so, yeah. It is. It definitely helps if if you read the books or you've seen Game of Thrones. But I think it's a really good TV show regardless. Like, it is very well shot. The dialogue is great. The characters are, for the most part, very fleshed out. It's just a time skip that I think was a big problem for a lot of people. But in general, it is a great show.
I think it's a very well done. Like, this, you don't need any other knowledge. You can just go into it. You don't need to watch Game of Thrones. Don't need to read the books. The show, I think, takes its liberties of establishing the atmosphere, the places we are, the characters. I say the one jarring thing is the time skip, especially from the younger characters to the bigger character, or the older characters, not the bigger characters. That's probably the biggest one, because it's like, as a book audience, we know who Harwin Strong is, but for like a show watcher, it's like, guy kind of comes out of nowhere. But I agree with you.
It's a show that definitely rewards you for reading the books or being familiar with the lore. Definitely, there's like bits and pieces, and even the way people talk, that we were like, yes. This is I noticed, like, that Leonardo DiCaprio meme, like, that one.
Yeah.
But it can be enjoyed regardless of you being a book reader or show watcher or not.
Agreed.
The next one is, sorry, chat, I'm really slow. Fury of Ice and Fire said, my theory is Val already exists because it is taking Dany too long to get to Jon, so Val replaced Dany as romance for Jon and wins. I think that's his endgame. I think Game of Thrones, the way Game of Thrones ended, not talking about how they treated Jon in the show, but just his ending, him riding north, I can see something like that happening, and him coming to peace with Val. That is something that I could see going on.
Agreed.
Guys, got a name for these live streams. The Greasy Voice, the Goblins of Old Town. It's funny you mentioned that, because we actually talked about maybe doing this on, regularly.
Of course.
Well, we gotta let you figure out the name. Suggest something.
Yeah, figure something out. I do like the Goblins of Old Town. That's
the Goblins of Old Town is great.
That's funny.
Well, goblins are green. So you're a
That's
bit of a
true.
hypocrite.
You know,
I just
hey, I don't
saved
have
this
the
for
green
this
chair
moment.
anymore.
You see that? Green.
Ah, yeah, there it is.
I'm just gonna
There
feed into
she
it. I'm not a
is.
green supporter, but I'm just gonna feed into it.
You
Next
have to
one.
answer this question by about the explaining your hate for House Targaryen. You needed to answer that question.
I don't have a hatred for House Targaryen. I just think when we're talking about Daenerys, when we're talking about Jon Snow, these are the characters that obviously have the biggest fan base and everything. But I'm not there for that. I think I just find other characters to be much more fascinating, and it is obviously that stereotypical struggle, power struggle. You come from nothing, you rise up to be something, and that connects with people. I love that. I think both John and Danny are great characters, but I'm here for the Stannises, for the Jamies, for the Theons, for the Sansas. Um, it's just personal preference, not hatred. Obviously, I'm watching a dragon show. I'm talking about dragons all the time, so there's gotta be some sympathy. He also asked another one. As a fitness coach, I have to ask this. How much of George's obesity and health is playing a part in his writing delay? I'm not sure. I don't know. Yeah, you as a fitness coach, you're more capable to answer this one, I think.
I'll answer. I got this.
Huh.
So, as a man that used to be a big chungus, okay,
Hmm.
I can tell you, you are a lot more tired when you're bigger. And so I don't know if that was just more of a me thing, but I will say when I got healthier, I definitely felt more productive, felt like I could get things done more, had more motivation. And so maybe that's a part of it with George. Who knows? Again, can't really speculate into his health without knowing him, but just my own personal experience. But yeah.
The next one, also, when Old Town was first founded, was it called Newtown? I guess, yeah. That's
So funny, so funny.
Hello, Mohammed. How's it going? Voice, can I get a 10 years from you? 10 years you've been king, and yet not once did you ask me to be your hand. Why would I do that? Because I'm your brother. That was my Matt Smith impression.
That was fantastic. I also will say shout out to Maz, one of my GOAT mods.
Jim a bear. I'm sorry if I butchered that. From that blog post, there's no chance of wins coming out in 2023, 2024. Yeah, I agree. I don't think this book is gonna come out this year. I don't think this book is gonna come out this year.
Matthew, we're getting there.
Oh yeah. Let's leave it at that for Winds of Winter. I feel like this is, just such a.
You can talk about it
It keeps, it's always the same thing. And if you're interested in my take on why Winds of Winter is delayed, I did a 3-part series on the channel. I'm not one to. I don't want to keep repeat myself all the time, like for all these clickbait videos where it's like you just slap a big ass HBO logo on it, so it looks official. When you say the same shit all the time, I feel like I've done enough of the free videos, and there's nothing new that really makes it, makes it worth talking about. So Matthew Stewart said, "How do you feel about the Aegon show? Also, funny to think that there could be 3 shows on in a single cycle, all with huge characters named Aegon." So it's funny, we talked about this prior to the stream, and Eric didn't know that this was a thing, and
nope.
So this is gonna be his, original reaction. What do you think about an Aegon's Conquest show? There's a writer attached to it. He did work on the Batman, the recent one from Matt Reeves. He has a writing credit in that, and yeah, just your thoughts on Aegon's Conquest as a show in general.
So my question, I guess I have, again, we don't know a lot about it, but is it just doing the Conquest, or are we going all the way to the Dorne stuff too? That would be my question.
Very, very important and good question, because it only ever really gets interesting. I mean, it is interesting. Don't get me wrong, but there's only ever a a challenge when we are
Yeah.
reaching the Dornish War, the first Dornish War, when people are, when the Targaryens are finally challenged. So I hope that it would be. There was talks about the first season being a theatrical movie at
Mm-hmm.
one point earlier last year, I think. Which kind of, you get like a 2.5 hour movie that just sets up like all the players, and then Aegon conquers the Seven Kingdoms, and you go from there. I think that would be great. That would
Yep.
be a solid way to introduce the characters and make it interesting in a TV show, because I'm not really keen on watching a show about a dragon lord with his two sister wives just conquering everything without challenge. And
See, I don't know. Like, to me, it's like if they do the Dorn stuff, I'm like, okay, it's a 10 out of 10. I would definitely want to see this. If they don't do the Dorn stuff, I'm like 8 out of 10 interest. I'm still interested. I'm very interested in it. Because I still like these characters. I like Visenya. They have a lot they could do with just the characters of Aegon, Visenya, and Rhaenys. Like, we don't really know a lot about their personalities. We know what other people thought about them and some of the stuff they said or maybe didn't say, right? Macers could just be making shit up. But I personally am interested in it. I think they should do the Dorn stuff if they're going to do it at all, because the Dorn stuff has a lot of the resolution for the characters. Some big moments that it's interesting, because if you do the Conquest, a lot of the stuff that happens in the Conquest directly sets up what happens in Dorn. It's the same type of tactics, Aegon's almost same thought process at the beginning, and that's why it kind of doesn't go as well, because it's a whole different animal. And so, again, I think I'm excited regardless. Extra excited if they do the Conquest of Dorne. That's my broad opinions on it.
McCavity, a guy that recently joined us on a podcast episode that's going to be out on Sunday, had a very interesting idea. And, it's basically showing, let's say you make the Conquest into an 8-episode season, like just the Conquest itself, and you show it from each kingdom's POV, kind of like a
That'd be really cool.
Targaryen villain show. And then in the end, you're introduced to them, and they're not really villains; they're the ones who structured the kingdoms and are responsible for how it is. That would be interesting. But let me get back to the chat real quick, because
Go ahead.
I don't want to abandon you.
Leave you hanging.
Yeah, says back issues, I've heard. All right, I'll ask again. Brian Solidus Fury says, from which current TV series or movie, in your opinion, House of the Dragon could benefit taking notes and copying cinematography the most? I don't know about copying. I feel like the cinematography in that show is absolutely stunning.
It's very good. Yeah.
And it only ever got better. I don't think that was a huge problem in Game of Thrones, apart from that long night episode where you can't see shit. But in general, I think there are very, very, very talented people on that show. And I've talked to Fabian Wagner, who was one of the main cinematographers of both shows, House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, since season 6. Very intelligent, just great guy. Yeah, I don't know. I just love the cinematography in Better Call Saul.
That's what I was gonna say.
That was my, like, I was watching that show and I just loved every shot, because it all had meaning. Every shot had meaning and it led to something. I don't know if they could implement more of that, but I don't think that it has to be improved at all.
I think the House of the Dragon stuff, a lot of the stuff we didn't like or things that maybe held it back, wasn't anything to do with the visuals usually. Anything, honestly, with visuals and music. It was usually just writing or things that they decided to do, or even just the amount of time that they had, episode-wise. That's usually where my complaints were. It was almost never when it came to visuals. I mean, there would maybe be a shot or two there where it was like, okay, maybe a little bit more lighting could have helped. But yeah, I thought for the most part they did a very good job. The only thing I would say for Better Call Saul, if you wanted to take something from it, is the way they go from shot to shot or scene to scene. They have very good transitions. I think one of the best shows of just transitioning naturally and making visual storytelling being a big part of that show.
Definitely. I think they're doing a great job at setting up the atmosphere of the show. Someone in the chat mentioned the beach scene with Damon and Rhaenyra. That's true. It was poor lighting. They shot day for night. And it was just a filter.
Yep.
Which, both Fabian Wagner and Miguel Sapochnik are not part of House of the Dragon anymore. I feel like this is something that might be changed now because they were fans of those shots. Like it's definitely in our. We asked Fabian Wagner about the Long Night, for example, and he said that he is definitely that was definitely in a artistic choice. He wanted it to be that way, and you can disagree with that, and maybe in the next season there's going to be more stuff for you. Let's get back to the questions. What do we have?
Another great one in there for you.
Oh, well. Brian Solidus Fury. Oh no. Is it? Oh, it's from Metal Mass. Is it officially greenlit or is it just in talks? Talking about Aegon's Conquest, obviously. It's just in development, and it's just something that got leaked. The writer attached to it, who also wrote the Batman. That's just something that leaked. So obviously, by today's nature, clickbait and all that, it's huge news.
All right, I gotta pause you right there. A Theory of Ice and Fire. I'm literally making a video that's me simping for Millie Alcox, who played the younger Rhaenyra. So I disagree with your statement.
What did he say?
To be honest, hot D actors, both sexes aren't as hot as Game of Thrones. So.
Oh my God! Did you see Olivia Cook? I'm sorry, my guy.
She's an attractive lady.
Jeez.
Respectfully. All right. So the question I think is interesting for you is, what was the primary reason for changing the name of the channel from House of the Stag to Voice of Old Town? Aren't you Stannis' #1 friend or fan?
Oh, is that your question or from?
No, that was from chat. That was from.
From Jesus V. Oh yeah. So basically, I just wasn't a fan of the name House of the Stag. It's something that I did a poll on my old fan page over on Instagram. And then it got decided and I went, fuck it, it's House of the Stag. But I was never really a fan of the name. And the Voice of Old Town, I feel like, there's so much about the history of Westeros that is attached to Old Town. It's the very history is kept at Old Town. And, Voice of Old Town, obviously, it just sounds cool. I like it. And I didn't put too much thought into the name in the beginning. And I just feel like this is, just better.
I think the name connects better. It's just a good name overall because it's like, okay, Old Town is part of House of the Dragon. It's a major part of it. Plus, it's like a news show or stuff covering A Song of Ice and Fire. Where would you get that if you're in A Song of Ice and Fire? Old Town. It's the source of like all information. So,
it's still the House of the Stag podcast after all, with my mates Josh and George. So they're still that, and I'm still a huge Stannis fan, as you can tell by this thing here and just in general. My #1 favorite character in the books. Let's get back to the chat. And back to the books. Another one from Brian Solidus Fury. And back to the books. Could you see somebody else continuing George R. R. Martin's legacy, just like other book series have been continued by other writers? I don't know. This is something that the fandom actively discusses all the time. I see the name Brandon Sanderson discussed. George himself is not a fan of that idea, as you know. He shouldn't be, I guess. It's he actually talked about this. He was like, no one will ever get to finish my books other than myself, and it's his absolute right. And if someone else comes in and rewrite and writes that thing, the legacy is it's not George's anymore. There will always be that argument of, well, is this George or who actually gets the credit for that? And I don't know. I feel like with the thousands of years of history that we have, even if A Song of Ice and Fire will never be completed, we are still going to be talking about Westeros in 20 years, in 30 years, in 40 years. It's here to stay.
The definitive answer is no.
I'm sorry. Just
no. So I'm gonna piggyback off that and just say, more or less, for me personally, if George doesn't finish it, I don't want it, because George, to me, outside of very select writers in history that have that same pedigree as George, and so somebody else coming in and finishing that, for me, I would always be thinking this is never going to be as good as what he could possibly do. And so I don't want it to come out and be like there's an obvious dip in quality. Like you can tell after book 5, it was, maybe it's still decent, but it's not the same, you know? That's how I look at it.
I put off reading Fire and Blood until, I don't know, a couple of months before House of the Dragon came out, because I didn't like the idea of Elio and Linda having their claws in this as well. I want it to be 100% original from George as well. So yeah, there's that. What else do we have? Is it officially greenlit? We went there. Voice of Old Town is coming from Jesus V again. Are you seriously not interested in seeing the Harrenhal scene? I am. I mean, he got what he deserved, and the Harrenhal burning, that would make for an amazing scene. But again, there's no real opposition until the Dornish come in. So I just prefer other stories like Duncan Egg, which we thankfully will get.
Hopefully. Or no, we are. Wait, aren't we getting it? Isn't it confirmed?
We are. It's greenlit. Okay. It is shooting later this year. I can't talk about that.
Yeah, we'll be here all day if you start talking about that.
No. I know something that I'm not allowed to share. The beach scene, we talked about that already. What's your primary?
Voice of the chief.
The chief says, do you think George will get much written on wins this year? It depends. He had bad years. He had good years. Like the COVID year was a really good one for him personally. He had said it was a very productive year. But who knows at this point? You can't make any predictions on this anymore. And I've stopped doing that years ago. I was the first guy to say, like back when season 8 came out, I was like, yeah, wait, he's just cashing in on season 8 coming, and all those arguments. I'm done with them. It'll be done when it is done. And sadly, we can't really predict it at this point.
Maybe Hot D season 2 will give him some inspiration.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
He's cashing in House of the Dragon season 2. It's coming in August. There, you've heard it here first.
Yep. It's coming in August.
To get back to the Aegon's Conquest show, as I said, McCavity said that maybe showing this in a way that the Targaryens are the villains would be interesting, and I agree. I think if you show each kingdom getting attacked, like each episode, like 7 episodes, 7 kingdoms, from each. Okay, not 7 kingdoms because obviously the Dornish and all that, but you know what I mean. Showing it from the kingdom side, getting to see the Starks and everything, and then they come in. That would be more interesting than just following these 3 butchering everyone. And I don't know. It's not much opposition.
I will say, just to add to that, a perfect listen if you want to get more of that type of content. History of Westeros does a fantastic job where it's like they go through. It's like, this is what I think is very interesting. It's like Aegon is trying to unite the kingdoms to, theoretically, you're trying to prevent war happening. Because Westeros, this time, it was a lot of war. All these different kingdoms, because it wasn't just, a couple factions in the past. So you're always going to war. You're trying to prevent that. So in theory, it's like, okay. And then you also have, Aegon's dream. We don't, that's kind of been tied into the story now. If that's a thing. So you got kind of 2 things going for the Targaryens where it's like, Aegon's probably thinking, Targaryen's got to be on the throne to stop the others, but then also it's to prevent future wars. But at the same time, it's like, what's the cost of that? And that's what I find interesting about Aegon's Conquest. It's like, yeah, but at the same time, the Field of Fire happens. Like how many of these innocent people were dying because of all of this conquering? So there's that too, which is interesting.
I think the dynamic between the siblings would make
Yeah.
for an amazing show. But you know, the interesting part comes later. The interesting part is Dornish Wars, Maegor. I think Maegor the Cruel. That whole reign and everything that leads up to his reign, that would make for an
Was
insanely
Aegon
good
sterile?
TV show.
There you go. You can explore the rumors about the parentage of Aenys and Maegor if you
And
do the Conquest of Dorne stuff.
yeah, and also like the payoff of such a show after you watch, you know, seasons of this maniac just doing horrible act after horrible act would be great. Would be great. I'd love to see that. And also
Yeah.
just a live action Maegor is just dream come true. Perfect.
Of course. I mean, think about some of the stuff. Like, this is why I think the Conquest of Dorne stuff is so interesting, because you also have wrapped into it. What do we always have in these shows is succession crisis or whatever. But you still have that, right? Like, because Aegon doesn't have any heirs for a good amount of time, right? And then Aenys and Maegor end up coming out. But that makes for interesting politics. Like, what's going on? Like, how are Aegon, Visenya, and Rhaenys going about doing stuff in Dorne, even though, you know, Rhaenys might be pregnant at one point, or there's no succession plan at this point. Like, is Orys going to become the next king if Aegon was to die and his sisters? Like, what's the whole plan? So there's parts of that we see with like House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones.
You had me at Orys.
I know.
Let's make that show a thing.
I agree.
Looking back, going back to the chat. Jesus V, question for both of you. What sparked your interest to make content surrounding A Song of Ice and Fire? For me personally, I've done, I had a fan page on Instagram, and I started 10 years ago. There was before there was even a greenlit 5th season of Game of Thrones. And for me, it's just a way of escaping the challenges that real life has to offer. I've always handled it that way. And, you know, Instagram, as silly as it sounds, that was my go-to place when life wasn't as easy or, you know, just didn't feel too good, and sort of just kind of hopped into this thing and started making content, because in the beginning I just created a second Instagram account so you know, my friends and people from work or whatever don't notice my nerd ass talking about dragons. And because back in the day you could see who commented what and where on Instagram. There was a whole tab. And I don't know, at some point my buddy George, who I also got to know through discussing Preston Jacobs' videos, he got banned on Instagram for posting something about some random Pompeo or whatever his name was, a politician. And we said, okay, well, let's just do a podcast, because you know, he's from America, I'm from Germany, and there's gonna be almost no contact there. We can't really, you know, we collabed a lot on Instagram. And, you know, then this happened. I never planned on showing my face. I never planned on doing any of this, actually. And, well, here we are. First live stream, I don't know. What about you, Eric? Sorry, I kind of went on a tangent.
I'm going to try and be short and sweet, because we could be here for a while. So, more or less, I got into the show when I was I was too young to be watching this show, Game of Thrones specifically. Very young. I really liked the show. It was, I will always say, I think Game of Thrones was like my first introduction into darker writing, like deeper writing, not just like the hero always wins, you know, the generic kind of stories you like have when you're growing up. And so I really got into the world and I really enjoyed it around season 5-ish. I read through the books, really enjoyed it. And then for a while, it was just something that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed just talking about it. I had like one friend that had actually watched the show at all. So again, part of it sparked from didn't have people to talk about it with. And then, so eventually I started a Twitch channel and then YouTube channel, but it wasn't for this. It's not this channel. And I was making content on there, but in the back of my mind, I always wanted to make videos on a Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones. Just never got to it because it was a gaming channel. Stopped doing that channel because I didn't like it. I didn't like what I was posting anymore. Decided we're going to start fresh. Made this channel with one of my friends. He's not really on it anymore, but started covering Song of Ice and Fire content. The YouTube algorithm seemed to like that, and now we're here. And also just same stuff, but same stuff between both of us is just escapism from daily stuff and all that. But yeah,
that's a big one. I had always had this this part of me where just wanted to flee into something else, and right now I'm doing that with theater a lot, and I'm planning on releasing or launching a short film channel later on this year where I create my own stories just about that. But let's go back to the chat. Where did we leave off? Wake the Dragon is here. Hey, Wake the Dragon. That is the best. That is the prime source for everything House of the Dragon leaks, rumors. There's so much crap on the internet. So many people just trying to make things up. If you're looking into something like this, if you're into leaks and whatever's, that is the person, and also very nice person. Glad you're here. What else do we have? Hey guys, greetings from Brazil. Why did you change your channel's name, Stag? We kind of went into it already. I just didn't like the name House of the Stag. I did a poll on Instagram because I used to have a fan page there. And people decided between Voice of Old Town and House of the Stag, and I went for House of the Stag, and the House of the Stag was at like 51% or whatever. And now we're here. This has nothing to do with me not caring about Stannis anymore or something like that. I still love the man.
He's a Stannis hater now.
Oh yeah. It's just it's just funny you say that, because one guy was actually really pissed about me changing my name. He kept copy and pasting me being a fake Stannis fan on every video I uploaded, which was very weird. This is very, very weird.
Well, we always got the Danny haters to, put us in our place. Or the Danny lovers. Sorry. Got that wrong.
There's always been this weird fight of Stannis fans and Danny fans, and I'm just
it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't at all.
You can't like both. You can't. It's impossible.
Yeah. It is possible to like both. It's very possible.
No. I mean, like, from like how people get stereotyped. It's like you can't like them both, even though you can. Like, it's not that
absolutely.
deep.
I mean, it's nothing to do with each other. And I don't think, like, people think that they might face off at one point. I don't see that at all, because by the time Danny is anywhere near the Crofters village, or let's say Stannis goes back to the Wall, there's just like, I don't know, 7 more books or whatever, 700 chapters until that might be happening. It's just not.
Yeah. Stannis will be toast by that time.
House of the Dragon scoops, Matthew. Yeah, we wanted to talk about House of the Dragon rumors, and now Wake the Dragon is in the chat as well. Gotta clarify, most of what I know about House of the Dragon Season 2 comes from Wake the Dragon, who's done a phenomenal job. You're not too big into spoilers, so...
All the spoilers I know are from you.
Okay, so where do we start? I mean, the very first episode is called A Son for a Son, which implies that, yes, and spoilers, by the way, Blood and Cheese is going to happen in the very first episode, which makes for a very interesting dynamic, considering we only have 8 episodes, and even though we only have 8 episodes, the Battle of the Gullet won't happen in Season 2, so it's not rushed, but the very first episode is going to be very, very quick. It's reconnecting with the characters, introducing the plot of Season 2 and all its wars, setting up the stage. And then you already have that huge scene, which is going to be the Red Wedding scene of House of the Dragon Season 2.
Yep.
Of House of the Dragon in general. And all its implications, like Otto leaving and, stuff like that. It's a very weird dynamic.
I agree. I mean, I think it does kind of feel natural to have it in episode 1 or 2, just because it's the direct result of what's going to happen. Maybe, you would think again, it's 8 episodes, so maybe you think, okay, there's some letters that got to fly, and there's got to be some planning that happens that you would assume it wouldn't be directly after, but I'm fine with it. One thing I will say I'm happy about, because you've talked to me about this, because I did have worries on, only being 8 episodes. And, was that going to be rushed? And from what you've told me, I think we're in a good spot where we're going to have a lot more development for characters, and we're going to slow down a little bit. Where season 1, it felt like we were rushing to that end point to get this war kickstarted. Now we're kind of like, now that we're here, we're going to sulk in it a little bit.
This honestly is best case scenario, them cutting it, because not only are we gonna focus more on the characters, the big thing, the big war, the big battle in season 2 is gonna be the Rook's Rest, and that's it. They don't cram 2 battles that are both gonna end up being compromised because of budget and stuff like that into one season. Instead, they're focusing on one war or one battle. We also have the Battle of the Burning Mill, 2 battles. And it's just more fleshed out. We spend time with the characters, and that is the way it should be. And Battle of the Gullet is gonna be in season 3, and part of the reason why that is because they are going to actually film on actual water, and that costs a lot. And a battle of this magnitude, you don't want to have that compromised. That is the biggest sea battle that you will ever see on television, ever. Yep. It's you don't want to have that compromised.
I agree. I think it makes sense to push it back. We're already going to be getting a lot of good things in this season anyway. I don't think it's needed in this season necessarily. Again, for book readers, you more or less know what the big plot points of this season are going to be. So yeah, I think it makes sense to do that, right? You don't want to have a season 1 Game of Thrones thing where it's like you didn't have the budget to do some of the battles towards the end of the season. We want to see those things. So makes sense. No problems with that.
Yeah, and in turn we get more fleshed out characters, which people wanted. People were there for the complexity.
Oh yeah.
Which is a huge lesson for HBO. The time skip and everything. Now everything is much slower. You can take your time with the characters, and another big thing that had a lot of people worried is the supposed exclusion of both Nettles and Daron. But given that we have 8 episodes that focus on other characters, and we don't even reach the Battle of the Gullet, it kind of makes sense. As much as I would have loved to see Daron at Old Town, let's have Hobart Hightower there, and they have a conversation. You actually get the insights of that place. That would have been neat, but it can still come, and it actually enables this show to run longer. We can have 5 seasons. That is actually a good thing.
Yeah, I am a little sad though. I wanted to see Daron.
Oh yeah.
He's the one green that I have sympathy towards. I'm like, I like you. The rest of you can fall off a cliff, but
but he's gonna come. House of George mentioned it. Ryan mentioned it. He's not cut. He is in the show. I think he will be mentioned in season 2. Also, Ryan said something along those lines that Daron will be mentioned.
That's good.
But yeah, it's gonna be a slow season that has real impact. Let the characters breathe. Let the actions of that war breathe, and show how incredibly flawed characters from both sides are. That's what makes it great.
Agreed. I think the thing that always made A Song of Ice and Fire interesting for most people was not the battle stuff. Like, yes, it was a nice part of it. It was good to have, some of that, but it was always the character interactions. It was always, how are the characters growing? What are their pitfalls? That's why Jaime's a fan favorite, right? Like, he's not really in any battles. It's just his character growth.
Yeah.
So
definitely. What else do we have on the chat? Then look for a while. Question for both of you. Jesus, we again. Who is your favorite Game of Thrones relationship? For example, Arya and the Hound, Jaime and Brienne. For me personally, there are, Game of Thrones and the Song of Ice and Fire are a different thing. Like, I find relationships or yeah, relationships like Asha and Stannis to be so incredibly funny. Like that's something that's so small and really like that's pure comedy gold to me. But yeah, Arya and the Hound. When we talk about Game of Thrones, Arya and the Hound is up there. Jamie and Bran is up there. What about you?
Uh, I kind of struggle with this question because I initially read it and I was like, my favorite like dynamics, if we're talking book, is like Davos, Stannis, and Mel.
Hmm.
But if we're talking show, that answer changes.
Hmm.
If we're talking the show, I think favorite dynamic that I like, it's not again a relationship as in like an actual
Oh
like
yeah, it didn't talk about relationships either, by the way.
I would say I actually would say Cersei and Tyrion for the first couple seasons.
Hmm.
But then if we're actually going like favorite like couple, I would probably say Rob and Talisa. I thought they had very good chemistry with each other.
You like that
But
book change?
I like it. See, it's weird because I don't say I would necessarily like it compared to the book, but I like the way that it made the Red Wedding even more brutal, more just horrifying. I don't know. It's a tough one
Both
because my other
actors
one
had
would be
great
John and
dynamic.
Egret, but
Both actors had a great dynamic on screen
yeah.
together. That was very fascinating to watch. What else do we have? I can agree. Metal Mass says, I can agree with that. It would be a perfect closeout episode for season 2, but I appreciate them taking time making sure it's right. It's talking about the Battle of the Gullet. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to have that compromised in any way, shape, or form. That is gonna be like a big, big thing, and more character development is only gonna be bigger. And you can focus more on the dragon seeds in season 2, for example.
It's true.
You can really like they introduced a an attempt to make the dragons more complex in season 1, and whether or not that will be successful is going to be determined in the next season. You
Yes, it
know,
will.
that the whole thing of how are you gonna be able to bond with a dragon? How strong is the connection to a dragon? That plays a vital role in House of the Dragon. There's so much stuff surrounding the dragons that um just has to be answered in the future. Are they going to introduce or even explain why Rhaenys killed all those civilians? What's up with Laenor and Sea Smoke and Adam of Hall coming in? Not Adam of Hall. What I'm talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, Adam of Hall. I'm sorry.
I get them confused all the time too. So
Adam Allen,
yeah.
Hammer, all that. There was an attempt, and it's to be seen whether or not that will be successful. But I'm here for it. What are your thoughts on that whole Dragonbond stuff? And
I like the idea, but I'm kind of in the same boat where it's like I need to see how it's executed. Like, how are we going to go forward with things that they set up? Like, for instance, I think when the show came out and we were watching the episodes each week, I was very much conflicted on the Aemon change, where in the book it seems more like it was he intentionally went out and killed Luke, but in the show they kind of changed that, and so I need to see how they execute that before I can really fully say if it was a bad change, a good change. I'm just kind of somewhere in the middle where I'm like, I like the idea, I just got to see if they stick the landing type situation. Also, after thinking about it, I want to go back to that question, and my favorite relationship is Pod and the sex workers. All right.
Okay. Yeah, it's to be seen how they'll do it. I mean, things like Rhaenys killing the civilians could have a huge impact later on with the storming of the dragon pit.
Yep.
It's just whether or not that was intentional, that this was set up, because it was like kind of celebrated on screen, which I didn't like.
Yep.
The next one is from Emmy. Hey, Emmy, how's it going? Did you read the series also in German? If yes, is there a big change on the emotional impact, reading experience to reading it in a different language? The first time I read A Song of Ice and Fire, I did read it in German. which is very weird. In Germany, they split up the books into two. So there are 10 A Song of Ice and Fire books in Germany. I don't know. It doesn't really change the emotional impact, I think. But it's I just like it to be original. You know, I love to actually read the original version that George intentionally put out instead of the translation. I'm big on original versions in general. Like I don't watch dubbed versions of shows or anything like that. I always want the original. But it didn't really have a big impact on the experience. I just fell in love with the characters and the series in general through reading it in German. The next one is from Jesus V again. Don't you think it's going to be too confusing for casuals? How Darren just pops up when everybody is already grown? They should at least have a birthing scene and him being sent off to Old Town. Yeah, it is. It might be a bit confusing, but they're gonna talk about him. I think probably early on after Blood and Cheese. We need another dragon here. We need more support. We need our brother, something like that. If done right, it makes season 3 all the more exciting because you have a new player coming into the scene. You have someone new, and I don't know. What do you think about that?
I personally do find it quite weird that like it wasn't really brought up during episode 9 or 10, really. Like there was no planning around it. So it does feel kind of weird that it wasn't even like name dropped that, oh yeah, we do have Daron at Old Town and he might be a threat. Doesn't really seem like it's any type of, so that I think if you're a casual, I'm just trying to put myself into the mind of someone that doesn't know any of these characters and know anything, it would kind of feel almost unnatural that it's like, okay, we've just kind of got this person that's very vital, it would seem, to the war that's just kind of been out of it. But again, I think they could, help remedy that in season 2, give us more information on him being there and introducing him into the audience, maybe not visually, but just through dialogue. So, again, it's one of those things where got to see how they execute it before you really judge it too much.
Yeah, I would have loved to see a scene or to have a scene at Old Town. Him and Hobart Hightower.
Yep.
Who they kind of merged with the Lord of Hightower, who we never got a name of.
Yep.
So, yeah. Next one is by Matthew Stewart. Do you think we will see more allusions to the others throughout House of the Dragon? Definitely yes. And I don't know. You're not too much into spoilers, Eric. I'm not sure if I want to go there or not.
I would prefer you didn't, but I'll give my thoughts on that actual plot. I'll be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the others stuff in this show, just in general. Like, I was never a big fan of just the change of making the dagger part of Game of Thrones, and it's kind of seems like just to connect the two shows. I was never really that big of a fan of it. But I do understand we're going to the north. There's going to be stuff is going to happen there. It's just
you already know that Jason and Cregan Stark are going to go to the wall.
Yeah, it just seems natural with the way that they've set up the story. You're going there. It makes sense.
The thing is, and this is not a huge spoiler, so I'll just say it. The thing is, we had leaked photos of the makeup department, and in the background there was photos of like the undead. So we don't know the full capacity, what this could be. Maybe it's even just Helena dreaming or whatever. But it's probably gonna be Jace and Cregan Stark north of the wall in some capacity. And look, I'm not too keen on this whole idea either. But since this is a Aegon stream thing and it was implemented in the very first episode, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, and we'll see how how they deal with this. I imagine this will play a part in any and all the Song of Ice and Fire adaptations from here on out.
Yep. Agreed.
Next one is by Emmy. Oh, nice. I didn't know you read them in German originally. Happy 10 years anniversary to your original account. Also, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Emmy and I had a Fury account back in the day on Instagram as well. We uploaded, yeah, uploaded a couple of Furies.
That's pretty cool.
Cannibal the Dragon. What dragons do you think we will see in House of the Dragon Season 2? Well, we actually notice we're gonna see Moon Dancer, definitely Moon Dancer. I imagine we're gonna get more of Vermithor. I'm not sure if we get Sheep Stealer since, you know, Nettles is not in Season 2. I hope we get more Sunfire.
Hopefully.
Oh yeah, you know what I would love to see, not as the opening scene of House of the Dragon Season 2, because we actually know the opening scene, would be a scene of Helena and Aegon riding on the dragons together. This wholesome
cool.
moment that would contrast, like, you know, the brutality of what's coming.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
That would be.
I just want to see Sunfire. So.
Yeah. You know, instead of that whole Rhaenys thing, you could have just had her escape, and we would have asked the questions of how did she escape, but it would have not been as weird as it was, you know, in the end. And instead of that, we could have gotten Aegon triumphant over the city and stuff like that. Wake the Dragon says, regarding Daron, I haven't talked about this anywhere yet, but I think they're making some changes to his story. I don't know a lot about it though. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting, because if it's coming from her, it's legit.
Well, you know, we'll just have to see how those changes go.
Yeah,
that's all we can really say.
We'll see. Matthew Stewart, I just want to see the cannibal, and I'm okay with the others being alluded to, mainly because George confirmed that Fury of Aegon stream being about the others. Yeah, that would be neat. The cannibal, kind of dangerous, but you know, I'm here for it. Next one is from A Fury of Ice and Fire. We watched 8 seasons of Game of Thrones and never got the others' answer or much real plot with them. That's true. That's true. But, you know, trying to fix another show's wrongs is a dangerous thing that could truly, you know, impact the show that we're currently having. I don't want to have this. I don't want this to have too much impact on the overall story, because the dance and the impact of the dance is important enough. But we'll see how it goes. Maybe, and that would be neat. We get a few glimpses of the others' motivation here and there, sprinkled through, you know, bits and pieces in House of the Dragon. Emmy says, yes, long live Game of Purists. Wouldn't our account be like 8 years old now or something like that? Yeah, that's true. I think around, we started the account in 2016, 2017. I think we started with season 6. A long time ago now.
My God, you're so old.
Hey, come on.
I gotta give you a little shit.
I can handle it. Jesus B says, do you think that the Blood and Cheese scene will sway fans towards the green side? Because as of now, the show sways viewers towards the black side, especially after seeing Lucerys dying. Yeah, it could be. I mean, Daron would have helped, and Daron will help in the future. But yeah, it's a weird contrast, blacks and greens, in general. What do you think about that contrast?
What it should do is make it to where you don't exactly like either side.
Yes,
it's what it should do. You should see this as, oh yeah, there's a lot of atrocities happening. You should be just kind of, but yes, it just seems like people go to one side or one or the other. And I'm one of those people. I'm team black, just 100%. But I think it's hard to figure out what casual viewers will do with that, because it is one of those things where it's like, if you're someone that already likes the black side of the camp and you like Daemon or you like Rhaenyra, I don't know if something like that is going to mightily push you over the edge, just because, you know, in a lot of ways, the green struck first. So it almost feels like if you're trying to rationalize why you should be on one side or the other, you might go, okay, well, this is retaliation type thing, even though it's horrible.
Well, and they
But-
show the black struck first because Rhaenys killed innocent civilians.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Forgot about that plot.
It's a weird contrast that I think I think there's definitely an attempt to make it even, but
There
it's
is
not
one, yeah.
really successful at this point because you made Aegon horrendous from the get-go instead of, you know, gradually showing him become that character. And on the other hand, Aemond, who we all thought was just going to be this anime villain, actually is quite decent and, you know, with reason, and is not just a goofy villain.
Agreed.
We shall see how it goes. We shall see how it develops. Matthew Stewart, is the opening scene Rhaenyra at the water? No. The opening scene of House of the Dragon Season 2 is a raven arriving at Winterfell. Ghost T says, do you think that the cannibal will just be in the background like the books? I feel like they have to give him something to do. It costs a lot of money. Of money, so I feel like someone like Ryan Condal, who really cares about things like that, would want to do it right. And it depends where the Dragon Seeds plot goes in the second season, because I think it will continue into the third. Who knows? Who knows? Can't say it. Matthew Stewart again. I was always a little sore that we never got a better glimpse into the heart of winter on Thrones and House of the Dragon War Crimes, the show. So true. So true.
It is so true.
So true. Poor people. I'm team civilians. I'm team small folk. I'm right in the middle. I'm Varys. But yeah. Is there anything else we want to talk about for today?
I have a question for you. I got a question. I'm going to be a chat goblin real quick.
Ooh.
So what is your favorite Targaryen time period?
It's gotta be between Maegor's reign or even, if we're talking Fire and Blood, I think Jaehaerys' reign was very well done. That was my favorite part of the book.
That was your favorite part of the book? Wait, hold on. We got to stop right there. Jaehaerys' reign was your favorite of the book?
Definitely.
That is a hot topic. You should make a video on that. that is a hot take.
I love that because, you know, good Queen Alysanne and all the what do you call them, conquest throughout the realm. They actually cared, you know, they cared about the people. Yeah. That was very wholesome. And the struggle of, you know, the struggle with the kids and everything. Sorry.
Very interesting, because whenever I talk about Fire and Blood, the common sentiment is everybody seems to like everything to like Maegor's rule, and then after that it's kind of like a dead space, because it's ruling, the struggles of rule. It's a lot of the same reasons why people maybe don't like Feast and Dance as much, because a lot of it's the struggle of rule with our major characters, and then you're back into another civil war, and then you're dealing with the repercussions after that civil war. So I find that very interesting. But like, again, mine is Maegor's rule or the dance. So I find that very interesting. I think that's a video that honestly would be really good to just discuss why you like Jaehaerys' reign so much. But
I might make it one day. I'm currently very busy.
Well, of course,
with theater, but I might do it. Do we have another one? I don't think so. So I'd wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for joining the stream today, for watching this live stream, my very first one, and I'm sorry for the struggle at the beginning. It just had to happen. Like literally, Eric and I sat there for an hour before the live stream even happened, trying to figure everything out, and then click on the thing, and it's you can't hear him. But I hope you will join in on a different day, on a different topic. Definitely plan on having you back on, Eric.
Of course. And I want to say shout out to all my Goblin viewers that I see in the chat. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, yeah. Thank you guys for watching. Take care and see you later.